All right, everybody. We are going to keep on schedule here and keep the afternoon rolling. Hopefully everyone enjoyed lunch. I thought it was pretty darn good. So good work to our team and to the staff here at Riverside. So here through the rest of the afternoon, we're going to be really hitting on the farmer side of things. So this morning was kind of the supply chain from a global perspective, from a U.S. perspective, to what we're doing here, with Continuum. Now we're going to hit on, okay, what are the farmers going in and doing? And we're going to do kind of the same format as before. We got a keynote with Johnny Hunter. And then we're going to do a panel after that, and then we'll go to the farm. So Johnny is our keynote here for this session. And I met Johnny a couple years ago, and this session's about getting it done. And Johnny's been able to take these principles, take his farming operation, and go figure out how to create value add within his operation. He farms rice and soybeans down in southeast Missouri. I know he's going to hit on a bunch of it, but been able to really figure out how to navigate and how to create value add out of this system. But it's all been out of the blood, sweat, and tears of figuring out how to do it as one operation, figuring out a path towards being profitable and doing all this stuff. And so hopefully there's some takeaways we can get here on this, on how do we enable all this to scale. But Johnny, thank you for coming on up and for being here today, be able to share a little bit of your story. Help me welcome Johnny to the stage.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, man. Clicker.
Well, here, take that with you. That ain't going to work up there.
Put it down here.
Oh, clutch.
How about that?
Nice. There's water, beer, everything. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Johnny Hunter, and the title of this speech, or talk, or what have you, is called Getting It Done, Capitalizing on Sustainability. Full disclosure, that's Mitchell's title for this, not mine. But I thought he did a pretty good job. Now, I do a few of these, not as many as I used to back in my soil health educator days. Now I talk more about what I'm doing in the supply chain. Now I'm talking more about the transition that my family and I have gone through, both on the farm and our business model in general. But one of the first things I always want to know, what's really important for me to know about the room, is I want to see where my farmers are at. So go ahead, raise your hand if you're actively a producer of crops, livestock, whatever. Show me the producers. Show me the producers. Keep them up. I got to see. I got lights in my eyes. All right. If you're... No, not done with you. Now, if you're currently using some sort of sustainable farming, whether it's cover crops, no-till, if you're using some sort of regenerative ag practice, put your hands down. Okay. All right. I like it. What that tells me is I've got some farmers in the room and they've made some changes to their operation. Now, I wasn't here for the entire morning, but I was here for a good deal of it. And what I saw happen on this stage was, a lot of people were talking about a lot of things. And if I could boil all that down, everything they talked about, to one word, I'll tell you the word that I was trying to pull out of every conversation, and that was money. Where's this, show me the money. Where's the money at? How am I going to get paid to do these things that I'm doing on my farm? And I think it's important for you to know that regenerative agriculture should not hinge upon your ability to get money out of some pool of funds. That is the cherry on top of the ice cream. When I made my regenerative transition over 10 years ago, by the way, it wasn't even called regenerative. First it was called conservation agriculture. Then they called it sustainable ag, or sustainable farming. Now it's called regenerative agriculture. I'm curious as to what name they're going to come up with here in the next 2 or 3 years, because then I'll just be doing that. So it's important to know that, yes, there are funds available, but if that is why you are considering making a transition or a bigger transition, then this thing's over with before it started. Because these funds come and go with administrations. We have an administration right now that's very forward-thinking on climate change and forward-thinking on eco-farming, and there's money out there for that. Now, we've got an election coming up, and all that money may go away one of these days. So make sure when you start down this path, you're starting down for the right reasons. I started down this path because I had a huge failure on my farm. 2012 was a complete abysmal failure. Everything I thought I knew about farming came crashing down on my head. We had a severe drought all over the country, but it hit us pretty hard in southeast Missouri too. And when I looked up at the end of 2012, I had about a net $650,000 loss. That's a tough pill to swallow. And the only difference between me and a lot of people in this room is I've probably made more mistakes than you, and I've made them on a bigger scale than you. That's the difference between me and a lot of people, is I've screwed up bigger than most of you will ever dream. But that also provides me with a pretty good education. I don't have a 5-gallon bucket of what to do. I've got a thimble of what to do, but I got a frickin' truckload of what not to do. And so if you're interested in those things, well, I can help you there a little bit. Now, today we're going to have 3 things coming out of Johnny's mouth. Hopefully no cuss words, but I've been told I have a bit of a potty mouth. So if I let one slip, forgive me. I think I have the only children in the room today, and trust me, they've heard it. So you're going to hear thoughts, you're going to hear opinions, and there's going to be some facts. Now, my thoughts are my thoughts, and you have to take my thoughts in $1 because that'll buy you a Coke. My opinions that I give you, I feel that I've earned those opinions. Everyone has opinions these days. Everyone has opinions on how agriculture should look. Everyone has opinions on what farmers should be doing. And 95% of the opinions, probably more like 99, they don't have any skin in the game. So when I'm talking up here today, I'm talking to the people who had their hands raised. And it doesn't mean the rest of you are out, because you probably serve this industry in different capacities. But unless your life is on the line, unless your family business, your family is on the line every single year, depending on your ability to produce something, in spite of market conditions, in spite of politics, in spite of weather, unless you're living that life, then you are merely a viewer to this thing that we're all living. You're a spectator. So I want to start it off with one of my favorite things to talk about. This is how I view the world. May those who love us, and may those who don't love us, may God turn their hearts. And if He can't turn their hearts, let Him turn their ankles so at least we can see them coming. And that's how I view the world. You're getting thoughts, you're getting opinions, and you're getting facts. If you love me, love me. If you don't, I hope God turns your heart. If you can't turn your heart, I'll see you coming. So, let's talk about who's in front of you today. I'm Johnny Hunter II. Yes, there was a Johnny Hunter I. I lost him in 1992 when I was 10 years old. Our family farm was forever changed in an instant. And something in that moment changed who I was. As I watched everything my family had tried to achieve over my father's lifetime get auctioned off in about 4.5 hours. And fortunately for me and my family, my mother was strong enough and wise enough to hang on to a fair amount of that land. But what that taught me, what that moment taught me, was that a family farm is really only as strong as the patriarch or the matriarch. And when that patriarch or matriarch goes away, so does the family farm. And I didn't realize this until just a few short years ago, that was one of the big takeaways from my childhood. I don't want a family farm. I don't introduce myself as a family farmer. When they write about me in the Wall Street Journal a few years from now, they're not going to call Johnny Hunter a family farmer. They're going to call him a businessman, an agricultural entrepreneur. Because that's what I want to be, and that's the direction I'm going. I want a company. A company is nothing more than a group of people and a process that trades goods or services for cash. And that happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. When the CEO of the company dies, the board of directors hires a new one. Nothing stops. That's what I want for my family, and that's what I'm doing. I've got with me today my family. I've got my wife Jessica, my daughter Emerson, and my son Johnny III with me today. Very proud that they're here. I'm glad they made the trip. Lifelong resident of Southeast Missouri. Went to Mississippi State, Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity. The graduation date's to be determined. Still working on that. I'll get that done one of these days. Business interests, I have lots of them. Personal interests, you can read. I like to do stuff. I get out. So that's who's talking to you. Here's where he's from. Down there in Southeast Missouri. You notice the different color down in Southeast Missouri and how it extends down into Arkansas, and it would continue on down into Mississippi. That's called the Delta. Everything inside that little different shade right there used to be ancient swampland. My farm at one point in time was underwater. And so we're in a different geography, we're in a different zone, we have a different set of circumstances than you do here in Iowa. If you're wondering why the hell Mitchell brought a rice farmer from the Delta, you're going to have to go talk to Mitchell. I don't know why he brought me up here either. So you can kind of see where we're at up here in Iowa. I don't exactly know. I think somewhere south of Cedar Rapids. Is that about right? Is that it? Okay. Yeah, so I'm just due south. And I live what I call the root line. I live below the root line. Root versus root. Where I come from, we have roots. Where you come from, you have roots. I didn't know what y'all were talking about for the longest time. You talk to a guy from Iowa. Me and Daddy went out to the farm and we dug up some corn ruts. Like corn ruts? What the hell? So I'm below the root line. That was a joke. Here's a little bit about what Castor River's up to. We're ag real estate holders. We believe in investing in land. We own and operate 2,500 acres in Southeast Missouri. I'd love to double that number, maybe even triple it. We develop ag real estate, but you have to understand what I mean when I say we develop ag real estate. We develop ag real estate, we develop farms for a sustainable future. And in Southeast Missouri, it's land leveling is part of our life. Ditches are a part of our life. We get 60 inches of rainfall in the Delta down in Southeast Missouri. Now, don't get mad at me because we get a hell of a lot of it at the wrong time of the year. I'm really glad to be here today because at home right now my crew's rolling out polypipe on soybeans. So I got to miss out on that today. To come sit in this nice air-conditioned casino. Crop production, rice and soybeans. So 2,500 acres. We're moving about 800 acres of rice around the farm every single year. Some of that ground is capable of growing rice. Some of it's non-irrigated, and I haven't figured out a way to irrigate it yet due to geographical challenges. So beyond the real estate holding, the real estate development, crop production, and I think it's probably fair to mention that, yes, we use regenerative agriculture on our entire farm. Now, let's stop right there for a minute because this is a great place for me to make a point about my company. And remember, thoughts, opinions, and facts. This is probably an opinion, but for me, I live this every single day. You have a lot of talk out in the world about sustainability, and you have a lot of talk out in the world about regenerative agriculture, and a lot of that gets commingled, right? Castor River is on a sustainability journey. The journey has a beginning, but it has no end. Sustainability is a journey. It's an ever ongoing process of improving your operations. If someone comes to you and says, I'm sustainable, you're going to have to ask them, what do you mean you're sustainable? What does that mean? You're done? You've achieved it? You've reached the apex of sustainability? What does that even look like? I have no idea. I'm not sure anybody else does either. So we're on a sustainability journey. It's a journey that I got on late 2012, going into 2013, when I began to transition my farm over to regenerative agriculture. And I transitioned that farm, as I mentioned, because of a failure. Unfortunately, in 2012 and 2013, guys like Mitchell Hoare weren't around. It was kind of a lonely world in the Delta if you wanted to make a transition. Fortunately for me, I found the end of the internet as far as cover crops, no-till, and soil health was concerned. And when I got to the end of the internet, every stop along the way, I kept bumping into this same name, Ray Archuleta, Ray Archuleta, Ray Archuleta, Ray Archuleta. And I wrote Ray Archuleta this really long email on a Saturday night at 10 p.m. And Sunday morning at 11 a.m., Ray Archuleta called me. And he said, John, I get thousands of emails every single year. He goes, I answer a few that I can. He goes, I'm answering yours, and I want to help you. And that was the beginning. I don't know if I would have signed up for that journey if I would have known in the beginning that Ray Archuleta's first move was going to be to send me to Bismarck, North Dakota. But that was Ray's first move. And I went and spent a week in Bismarck, North Dakota with Jay Fuhrer and the soil health team in Burleigh County. Unfortunately, the one farm I didn't get to go to when I was in that state was Gabe Brown, but Gabe ended up being a friend of mine afterwards anyways. So that's kind of that was the beginning of my journey. You know, there wasn't, you had to go make your network. You had to make your network. Lauren Steinlage's here. He was a part of that in the beginning when we had to make the network. We had to make the connections. Then you were bumping into guys like Gabe Brown. And then if you were lucky enough, you got to meet Dave Brandt. And if you met Dave and you spent any time with Dave, your life was never the same. And I can't think of anybody else that's going to be missed more than that man. Dave was also a mentor to me. And helped me for no reason other than he wanted to. Just like a lot of these guys did. And so that's how we have to act now. So we got we're on the sustainability journey. Okay? We're using regenerative agriculture as the vehicle we're traveling in. Beyond the production, we have a food manufacturing business that we launched in 2018. Why? I ask myself that every single day. But I'll tell you why is because from 2013 to 2018, I watched what we were doing to our soil. I watched what we were doing to the ecosystem in which we were farming. I watched the population of wildlife increase. I watched the earthworm population explode. I saw more turkeys on my farm than I've ever seen in my life. More deer, more rabbits, more skunks, more possums, more squirrels, more turtles, like weird stuff. And so I thought, you know what? I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm pretty damn sure I'm creating value for the world here. And the problem was, especially at that time, the jury's not quite in yet on if it's going to happen now, but the ABCDs of the world at that time, they didn't give a rip about sustainable agriculture. Not one single rip. And so if I wanted to extract value out of what I was doing, I was going to have to take it to the market myself. And that's exactly what we did. So we do rough rice storage, we have a rice mill, we have a packaging line, we have our own warehouse. Don't think about like anything like this, a small warehouse. It's attached to the rice mill. And then we do branding and marketing. I have my own CPG brand that I take out into grocery retail, food service, and then we also have B2B relationships or more industrial relationships. One of them, those is with Anheuser-Busch. One is with Mars Foods US. And one of the things that I did hear up here today that really resonated with me, because it is true, the multi-billion-dollar companies of the world, the Mars, the Nestle's, the Coca-Colas, the Pepsi's, the AB's, the Kellogg's, they do want more sustainability in their supply chain. They do want that. But please, don't think for 5 minutes that they're interested in coming out of their pocket to pay you one dime more for what that really is. Now, if they can funnel the money from some other source, be it the government or wherever, then yeah, they're going to pass along, they're probably going to pass along a little piece of that pie. But they're going to get their bite first. I'm not mad at them about it. There's a reason why these people are who they are. There's a reason why they're in every country all over the world. They're good at what they do. They're really good at what they do. And they didn't get there by making you rich. Food for thought. Beyond the real estate, the development, the crop production, the food manufacturing, the branding, the marketing, we've also gotten into the logistics business. Why? Because we had to. We had to. It's really frustrating when you can't keep a promise to a distributor because a trucking company didn't show up to move your product. It's really frustrating when you watch the price of your product go from profitability to now I lost money on this pallet of rice because it cost me too much to ship it from point A to point B. So what did we do? We bought trucks and trailers. If any of you are on the fence of starting a trucking company, don't do it. You'll be better off for it. It's really, it's a tough business to be in. And so we're very strategic in how we use that trucking company. We're trying to do long hauls where we can get back hauls home. And, you got to leave a lot of that LTL work to people who specialize in LTL. So it's all good, though. Let's talk about some of our Castor River sustainability initiatives. Again, this is the journey that we're on. So I'm not just going to zero in just on crop production, because I've kind of beat that up a little bit. But yeah, our operations no-till. We use cover crops across all of our acreage. We do not flood our rice fields. We do not burn our rice fields after harvest. We use no fungicides or insecticides on our rice fields. Do I have to use them in soybeans sometimes? Yeah, I do. I hate it. I hate it. But I'm just not in a position yet to where I can say, you know what, I'll take that 10 bushel a hit on the chin, and I'm going to do it. I will not do it in the rice, because that's a promise that I've made to my customers, that these crops have not been sprayed with fungicides or insecticides. And that really, once we cut that out, at least in the rice production, we saw good things happening because of that. We saw our crop residue begin to decompose faster. We saw the benefit of having these pollinators and these predatory insects on the farm. And so that was one of the big changes we had to make. Now, in the Delta where I farm, we're furrow irrigated, right? So I've got to get water from the high end of my field to the low end of my field. I have a no-till cropping system. Don't confuse that with never-till. About every 5 to 7 years, I have to come in and straighten my farms up. And we try to move that around, and we're trying to do as little of that tillage as possible. But that is just a reality of farming where I farm. I wish I could tell you I was a never-till guy. I want to be that guy. But Dave Brandt did tell me something one time. He goes, look, everybody's got to correct the field every now and then. He said, but it's important that it hurts you to do it. As long as it hurts, go ahead. But the day it quits hurting, you've fallen off the wagon. So it hurts, and I want it to keep hurting. On the land development side, you know, we have to manage the drainage with drainage structures. You know, we've got to make sure we're you know, obviously with the no-till and the cover crops, you know, that abates a lot of our erosion problems. But even with all that in place, with 60 inches of rain, and some of that coming 3-4 inches, you know, in a session, you know, erosion is a concern, and we have to, you know, make sure that water's getting slowed down, and we're not just running it off in the ditch. We've got a solar-powered subsurface irrigation system that we're trying to put the finishing touches on. To my knowledge, 2024, I will have the only subsurface solar-powered rice field in the country, whereby I have eliminated all of the emissions that we normally have to suffer through when we irrigate rice. So Mitchell's talking about this carbon initiative, the CI. I'm excited about that. Business operations, great. Tier 4, recyclable, compostable, blah, 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 blah. Let's keep rolling. Here we are. This is the brand, Castor River Habitat and Farm. If you don't have a brand, consider it one day. Consider having a brand. This brand represents everything good that we do on our operation. We're not Castor River Farms. We're Castor River Habitat and Farm. We've got a plan in place where we're going to begin converting some of our less productive tillable ground into wildlife habitat, beyond the wildlife habitat that we've already created. We're doing that for the purpose of biodiversity. Why do I want biodiversity? Because the more life I can get in my farm, the more life I can pack in there, the easier my life is going to be. If you've never experienced that, you ought to. This is what I send out into the world. Long grain brown and white rice. If that doesn't sound super sexy, it's because it's not. It's long grain brown and white rice. But when you look at the way we grow this rice and the dedication we have to the soil and to the planet, we're one of the few games in town that actually can stand behind the claims that they make, on their product. We got jasmine rice coming in 2024. We do a 1 pound, 2 pound, 24 pound bag. Again, why this? Why rice? Well, we were already growing it. We're pretty good at it. We're okay anyways. Rice is something that's not that difficult to take from a raw standpoint to an edible standpoint. You knock the husk off, you got brown rice. You've polished the bran off, you've got white rice. Boil it, eat it. Even Johnny Hunter can figure that out. And we did. We've upgraded. We're in the middle of our third rice mill upgrade. So from where we started in 18, upgrade, we're on the third upgrade. And this next upgrade should allow us to mill every bushel of rice that we produce on our farm, which is normally around 160,000 bushels. And we've got some partnerships in the pipeline right now that could very well absorb every bushel of rice that we produce. We use recyclable and compostable packaging. You don't care about the rest. Here's the farm, from another view. Like, this is the branded side. Like, this is what I'm going to go out and show people when they're asking about my farm. What do we do? I'm going to say, look, we utilize vertical integration. We renew the ground with regenerative agriculture. We grow the crops. We store the crops. We mill the crops. We package the crops. We ship the crops. So from the point of the finished distribution to the field, you have one partner. That's Castor River. We don't have co-manufacturers. We don't have co-packers. We're trying not to hire a lot of outside trucking companies. We want control over that process. We want control over the process because control is oftentimes it's an illusion. But just to know that I can get it to distribution without ever picking up the phone, that means a lot to me. It means a lot to my team too. It means a lot to our partners. Regenerative farming, sustainable practices. Notice the separation. Sustainable is not always regenerative. It's probably going to have to be in crop production. But just because I'm regenerative, that doesn't make me sustainable. I can't go over here and practice regenerative agriculture and then take, my waste products and burn them or throw them in a river. Right? It don't work like that. I can't go over here and do regenerative agriculture and it takes me 3 times more diesel to do my job than it does my neighbor. I've got to be going the other way, right? So create a little separation there. We've been busy. These are some of the partnerships that I've been able to form since 2018. They're absolutely right about Walmart. They're into this stuff. Their initiative is called Project Gigaton. Castor River was brought into Walmart. I had my first phone call in 2021. The product didn't hit I didn't ship my first product till October of 22. And I got a yes on the phone call back in 21. So if you're thinking about getting further into the supply chain and you're thinking about grocery retail, go in with eyes wide open. Because if you think you're getting beat up down at the co-op, if you think you're getting beat up down at the elevator, wait till some of these guys get their hands on you. You've never been beat up like that before. I've taken beatings that I didn't even know existed. But that's how we learn. Whole Foods, great. The Fresh Market, Dearborg's, Giant, that's just a small sampling of who we're doing business with. And not listed up here are some of my favorite partnerships, which are the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small mom and pop, independent, family-owned grocery stores. Maybe they only have one location. We love those. Why? They know the products that are on their shelves. They care. They love knowing that a family has actually produced this product and produced it in a way that they like. Food service. Again, this could be restaurants. These are universities, hotel chains. This is the fastest growing area of my company right now. And I like that. I like that. There's about 75% less BS I put up with in food service versus grocery retail. So if I can develop a BS-free life, I think I'm living my best life. They are ice cold. So, key distribution partners. Again, you got to understand the food supply chain and how it works. If you think you're going to develop a product and drive it from your farm to the grocery store, you're wrong. You could have done that before COVID. It's pretty well all over now. I launched this brand in 2018 by driving from grocery store to grocery store. I started out in Springfield, Missouri at the local Hy-Vee. We found out that grocery store managers, they probably don't want me telling you this, but if you want to go to market strategy, here was mine. I found out Hy-Vee grocery store managers had the authority to put new product on the shelf without going through corporate, and you needed no distribution. And after 6 months of the phone not ringing off the hook, I decided that was a pretty good plan. So I started off in Springfield, Missouri, made my way up to Kansas City. Then we left Kansas City. Once we had that market kind of wrapped up, we came on into Des Moines, Lincoln, Omaha. I can get you around Des Moines. I know that town. I know where the 801 Chop House is. I ate there every Friday night before I drive back home to start my week over again. I ended up landing 65 Hy-Vees. I got my product in 65 Hy-Vees, and the only reason why is because I probably walked into 150 of them. No one in this room has been told no more than me. No one in this room has been told you're out of your mind more than me. But with that, you learn. So you have distribution partners that you have to take on if you want to get deeper into the supply chain, if you want to go to grocery retail, if you want to go to the restaurants. There are some restaurants that will take product, but you got to be able to scale this thing, right? You know, you got to be able to go. This was never a hobby for me. This was always the future of our family farm, the future of our company. I want to leave you with this. This is a great way to think about your life, your business, and what you expect out of your time on this planet. Because I think as farmers, sometimes we get convinced that we have to set our expectations at a certain level. That commodity production is the lane we're supposed to stay in. Right? Know your role, farmer. You sit right there and we'll tell you how much of this money you're going to get. Not I. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I asked of life, life would have paid. I'm asking a hell of a lot out of this life. I've risked a hell of a lot to do it. Sustainability is the cornerstone of the house that I'm building. Don't be afraid to ask for a lot out of life. Don't be afraid. Thank you.
Well, now that we're all scared off here, Johnny. A couple questions, I don't know, we got a little bit here. But Johnny, question on my side here. I think you were kind of just answering it, but would you do this again, starting from scratch? And then therefore with that, would you encourage other farmers here to try to figure out this journey that you've been on? Because it has been a lot of hard work, and now it's getting there. And to your point, ask a lot, you can get paid a lot, but would you start over again from scratch? And what do you encourage the farmers here to do?
Yeah, would I do it all over again? I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. And the reason why is I have the good fortune of knowing why I was put on this earth. And it's a hell of a feeling if you've never had it to know. But once you know, then the hardship, the pain, the sacrifice, you know, it's not so bad. Now, there's sacrifice and pain and hardship that gets suffered because of my journey that, you know, my wife and my children, they have to bear that cross. And I hate it. But there's a cost to this. I think as farmers, no one knows better than us. There's no such thing as work-life balance. It does not exist. There are work-life choices, and each one has consequences. So yeah, I'd do it all again, and I'd be a hell of a lot better knowing what I know, Mitchell.
I got one more question here, Johnny. For the companies that are like in the room and stuff that want to scale all of this up, what do you tell them to figure out how, like they want more of the production system like what you've built, they want more sustainability. What do you tell them that they would need to do to get it to scale and be able to get more farmers on the journey that you've been on?
Yeah, let me jump back because I missed part of that. You also wanted me to touch on what would I tell a farmer that wanted to do this, right? Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Let me go back and hit that. If you're a producer and you create value on your farm and you want to find ways to get deeper into the supply chain and you want to find ways to create more revenue, create more opportunity for your family, it's possible. It's possible. I would encourage you to, just like in every aspect of business, you have to build a team around that. Just like when you're transitioning from conventional agriculture to regenerative, you need a team around you so that you don't pull a Johnny Hunter and lose your shirt. I didn't have a team. I had good people, but a team's better. If you're going to go get into the food industry and you're thinking, hey, I've got a niche here, you probably do. But you've got to understand how this industry works, and you've got to build a team around that. And whatever number you have in mind, if you have a project in mind and you think, hey, I've got this sustainability thing going, I'm going to take this product and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to it, and I'm going to sell it, and I think it's going to cost me $1 million to pull this off, and I think I can do it in 3 years. Go ahead and double the time and at least double the money. And ask me how I know. I've got a lot tied up in this. Mitchell, what was the last question?
What do you tell the companies that are trying to figure out how do they scale some of this up from the corporate side? What do you tell the corporates that would like to figure out how they could develop these markets at big scale?
You know, I think the number one thing I would tell the corporates is if they would rethink the way that they do business in their supply chain, if they would rethink the whole thing and take what they've been doing and throw it in the trash can, there's a lot of green grass in that. And what I mean by that is, you know, as producers, you know, we're used to grain contracts. We're used to supplier agreements. Hey, Farmer Joe, you know, give me 500 acres of this thing here, and here's how I want it done. Turn in your data. Here's $50 an acre. Great. A lot of people are going to be happy with that. If we had partnership, if we had real partnership between all the players in the supply chain, that's a tide that raises all boats.
Let's go ahead and give Johnny a round of applause. Thanks, Johnny.